We need to talk about what happened on August 27, 2025. A morning mass at Annunciation Church in Minneapolis turned into a scene of absolute horror. In this explainer, we're going to walk through the public record of that day. What happened, the devastating human cost, what the investigation found, and the deeply divided national conversation that blew up right after. So picture this. It's the first week of the new school year at Annunciation Catholic School. All the students, all the teachers, they're gathered together for an all-school mass. You know, this should have just been a totally normal, routine start to the year. But that morning peace was completely shattered, and it happened so fast. Let's break down exactly how the attack unfolded. Okay, look at this timeline. At about 8:27 in the morning, the first frantic 911 calls start pouring in. By 8:29, just 2 minutes later, the gunfire is over. The speed is just staggering. Minneapolis police were on scene literally moments later trying to help, and by 9:29, less than an hour after it all started, the city gives the all clear. The immediate danger was over, but the full scope of what just happened was only beginning to come into focus. I mean, just think about that for a second. 2 minutes. The entire active shooting, the time when all that chaos was happening, lasted for just about 2 minutes. A terrifyingly short amount of time that would change so many lives forever. The investigation revealed just how chillingly calculated this assault was. The attacker didn't even go inside the church. Instead, they fired an AR-15-style rifle right through the stained glass windows from the outside. And this is crucial. They had barricaded at least 2 of the exit doors with lumber, essentially trapping people inside. Police found 116 rifle casings. That just tells you the sheer volume of fire. A shotgun and a pistol were also there, but it looks like the pistol malfunctioned. Now we have to turn to the heartbreaking human cost of this violence, and believe it or not, the incredible stories of bravery that came out of all that chaos. 2 children had their lives tragically cut short. Harper Moeski, who was 10 years old, and Fletcher Merkel, who was just 8. On top of the 2 children who were killed, 30 other people were injured. 26 of them were school kids. 3 were elderly parishioners, in their 80s. And 1 person was hurt just in the scramble to get away. But amid this absolute tragedy, this incredible detail of heroism came out. This account from a parent. It's just amazing. It describes how the school had this buddy system where they paired older kids with younger kids. And what happened was older students got wounded because they were shielding their younger buddies, staying up just long enough to push them to safety under the pews. Just, wow. So the immediate question on everyone's mind was, who could possibly do this and why? Let's get into what the investigation uncovered about the person responsible. Law enforcement identified the perpetrator as 23-year-old Robin M. Westman. And here's the connection. Westman was a former student of Annunciation. Their mother had also worked there, so this was someone with a direct, deep tie to the very community they targeted. As investigators started piecing together a profile, they found a really complex and disturbing picture. Westman, who was assigned male at birth, had identified as transgender. In diary entries, they actually expressed disillusionment with being trans, though there wasn't any evidence that they had started any kind of gender-affirming medical care. On YouTube, Westman had posted videos with writings that talked about suicide and extremely violent thoughts. And the weapons themselves? They were covered in hateful messages, anti-Semitic, anti-Catholic, and racist phrases. And here's a really critical finding from the investigation. The entire arsenal, the AR-15-style rifle, the shotgun, the pistol, they had all been purchased legally and very recently. So based on all the evidence, especially those hateful messages found at the scene, federal authorities announced they were treating this as both an act of domestic terrorism and a targeted anti-Catholic hate crime. In the wake of so much horror, the way the community responded, well, it was with just profound grief but also incredible solidarity. Right away, all across Minneapolis, the community's response was just overwhelming. Hundreds showed up for candlelight vigils. A makeshift memorial of flowers and notes started growing outside the church. One prayer service drew over 600 people. Condolences even came all the way from the Vatican. But that grief very quickly turned into action, with students and parents rallying at the state capitol, demanding new, stricter gun laws. The feeling of the local faith community was captured so perfectly in this raw, direct statement from Archbishop Bernard Hebda. He just said, "My heart is broken. We need an end to gun violence." But while the local community seemed united in its grief, the shooting almost instantly ignited a fractured and deeply polarized national conversation.
The mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, immediately pushed back against any empty condolences. He made this incredibly powerful statement. Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying.
At the exact same time, though, a totally different focus was emerging from some federal officials. It was reported that both the Secretary of Homeland Security and the Director of the FBI made a point to emphasize the shooter's transgender identity in their very first public statements. And this is where you really see the divide. This split led to two completely opposite demands for what to do next. On one side, you had advocates and local leaders demanding a ban on assault weapons. On the other side, you had some lawmakers calling for the repeal of Minnesota's transgender refuge law. And these dueling calls to action, they pretty much defined the national dialogue that followed. Many conservative commentators started framing the attack as an act of trans-terrorism. Meanwhile, gun violence prevention groups just focused relentlessly on the weapons themselves, pushing for a ban. And then, news broke that the Department of Justice had begun exploring ways to potentially limit gun ownership specifically for transgender people.
And all of this leaves us with a really fundamental and really difficult question. After an unimaginable loss, when a community is united in its grief, but the nation is completely divided on the cause and the solution, what is the real path forward from that grief to meaningful action?